Imagine taking one of nature's most violent predators, a history of near genocide, and like the rituals of ancient secret societies, and using them to build a blueprint for ultimate unconditional love.
Yeah, it sounds completely contradictory.
Right. But that is exactly the paradox we are untangling today. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a single, just wildly layered source text today. It's an excerpt titled 13-The 12 Tribes of Israel Chapter 13-Benjamin.pdf.
This is quite a title.
It is, yeah. And our mission is to look at how one ancient biblical tribe, Benjamin, functions as a mystical masterclass. Like, it provides a literal framework for confronting our darkest inner conflicts and forging them into, profound wisdom.
And it does so by bridging ancient tribal history, Masonic rites, Kabbalah, and even astrology.
Yeah. So, okay, let's unpack this, because this material forces you to look at your own psyche in a way you probably wouldn't expect.
To even begin to grasp this, we first have to ground ourselves in the historical dirt. We have to examine the intense duality of Benjamin's origin.
Right, the survival story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because the source illustrates this huge pendulum swing of extremes that basically defines everything this tribe represents.
Yeah, because the founding of this tribe starts with profound tragedy. Benjamin's mother, Rachel, actually dies giving birth to him.
A horrific start.
Yeah, and with her final agonizing breaths, she names him Ben-Oni, which translates to son of my sorrow.
Such a staggering psychological burden to place on a newborn.
Right. You are coming into the world, and your very identity is defined by the tragedy of your arrival.
Just imagine carrying that as your foundational myth. But his father, Jacob, immediately steps in and renames the boy Benjamin.
Meaning son of the right hand?
Yes. So before this child can even form a memory, you have the entire psychological blueprint of his legacy laid out. It is a choice of framing.
It really makes me think about how we process our own trauma, like when something terrible happens to you, there is this massive defining tension.
You can define yourself by the sorrow of the event. Like, you can remain the son of sorrow. Or you can reframe it and become the right hand of your own strength, taking that raw pain and using it as a foundation for resilience.
And what's fascinating here is how that personal, individual duality of the founder becomes the literal destiny of the entire tribe over centuries.
Oh, for sure.
Geographically, the tribe of Benjamin was incredibly small. Yet if you look at their positioning on the map, their land encompassed Jerusalem and the Temple Mount.
They are sitting squarely at the nexus of their society's most powerful forces.
Right. They held the ultimate center of gravity.
Because the priesthood belonged to Levi, the kingship belonged to Judah, and Benjamin was just wedged right between them, holding the sacred center where kings were anointed and prophecy was delivered.
But holding that center almost destroyed them.
Yeah, the crime of Gibeah.
Right. The source details a horrifying civil war recorded in the Book of Judges. And without diving into the brutal specifics, the result is that the tribe of Benjamin is nearly wiped off the face of the earth by their own brothers, the other tribes of Israel.
Exactly. They are decimated, pushed right to the absolute edge of annihilation.
But they don't vanish.
No, they don't.
From the ashes of that near genocide, they bounce back in a way that totally alters history. I mean, they produce King Saul, the first king of Israel.
And the prophet Jeremiah, Queen Esther.
Even the Apostle Paul, who was originally Saul of Tarsus, a Benjamite.
Which raises an important question, right? What does that kind of extreme history do to a group's identity?
It has to leave a mark.
It creates a specific kind of spiritual resonance. Going from near annihilation to immense cultural dominance forms the foundation for all the initiatory traditions that later adopt Benjamin as a symbol. It is the ultimate human story of death and rebirth.
And that historical whiplash perfectly sets up the animal they are associated with.
The wolf?
Yeah, because how does a traumatized, geographically tiny tribe get represented by a fierce predator? We are moving from the historical survival of Benjamin into his esoteric symbol.
The text highlights a very specific quote from Genesis 49, verse 27.
Right, it says, Benjamin shall reven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil.
A profound and meticulously constructed image.
I have to push back on this a little bit, though. Wait, devouring prey doesn't sound very spiritual to me.
It really doesn't at first glance.
Right. Usually when we talk about mystical development, the language is about peace, letting go of the ego, transcending our animalistic nature. Spirituality is often marketed as light and harmony.
It is, yeah.
So how are we supposed to reconcile this aggressive, predatory imagery with actual spiritual growth?
Well, that tension is deliberate. The esoteric traditions actually want you to sit with that discomfort.
Really?
Yeah, the source text breaks down the temporal alchemy of that Genesis quote, the contrast between morning and night. Esoterically, the morning represents the beginning of the spiritual work. It is the instinctual, messy confrontation of your shadow.
Oh, so the devouring isn't an outward attack on someone else.
No, not at all. It's a deeply internal process. It is devouring the chaos within yourself.
Like the trauma we just discussed.
Exactly. You can't just politely ask your deep-seated traumas, your shames, or your primal energies to quietly leave the room. You have to meet them with a certain ferocity. You have to devour the raw, unprocessed material of your psyche.
You have to consume it so you can digest it and integrate it.
Precisely. Because if you only ever pursue light and peace, you leave the shadow untouched. And repressed shadows grow dangerous.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the process doesn't stop in the morning. At night, which represents the maturation of the spiritual journey, that raw, devoured energy is transformed into discernment.
The integration phase.
Right. The text says at night he divides the spoil. He distributes the wisdom gained from that morning battle fairly and justly.
So it's about taming the animal instincts through spiritual insight, not amputating them from your personality?
Exactly. Benjamin represents the initiate, who descends into their own internal wilderness and emerges balanced. And the wolf is the perfect vehicle for this.
Because the wolf represents solitary strength like the lone wolf, but also intense pack loyalty.
And it thrives in liminal spaces, the boundaries between the safe-known village and the dangerous wild forest. It is a creature of lunar cycles, secrecy, and most importantly, guardianship.
The guardian of the threshold. And that concept of the wolf as a gatekeeper transitions us directly into how secret societies utilize this exact symbolism.
Yeah, the source material spends a lot of time on Freemasonry and how these ancient rites view the Benjamite energy.
Right. In Masonic allegory, Benjamin resonates heavily with the Knight Templar degrees.
And we aren't talking about the historical crusader fighting for physical territory here.
No, this is the allegory of the spiritual knight fighting for conscience and inner truth.
Exactly. There are also deep parallels drawn to the Master Mason degree, specifically the narrative of Hiram Abiff.
Right. The core themes mirror Benjamin's tribal history perfectly. Profound betrayal, severe trauma, tragic loss, and ultimately a form of resurrection or restoration.
And we see the wolf motif explicitly physicalized in the structure of the Masonic Lodge itself. The text brings up the concept of the Tyler's sword.
Oh, yeah. For those who might be unfamiliar, the Tyler is the officer in a Masonic lodge who physically sits outside the closed door of the meeting room.
With a drawn sword.
Right. They sit there with a drawn sword to ensure that only qualified people enter the space and to keep eavesdroppers or disruptions away from the work happening inside.
So the Tyler is the threshold guardian of the physical space. But esoterically, Benjamin's wolf is the Tyler's sword guarding the inner sanctity of the soul's temple.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The text pulls a quote here from Albert Pike, a prominent 19th century Masonic philosopher, and it totally reframes this idea.
It's a brilliant quote.
He writes, "There is a wolf at the door of every sanctuary, but it is our own reflection, our lower nature, guarding the way until it is acknowledged and mastered."
A phenomenal piece of insight that completely flips the traditional narrative of the monster at the gate.
But wait, if the wolf at the door is my own lower nature, like my anger, my fear, my survival instincts, isn't there a massive risk in making that the security guard?
No.
Well, how do we know the wolf won't just turn around and bite us? Letting our base instincts guard the sanctuary feels incredibly dangerous.
It is dangerous, but only if those instincts are starved and ignored. That is the genius of Pike's insight.
Oh, I see.
The lower nature only attacks the self when it is locked in the dark, unacknowledged. When you recognize that the wolf outside the door is just your own survival instinct trying to protect you.
Your own Benoni sorrow.
Exactly. The relationship changes. By acknowledging it, you feed it, you master it, you unify the inner house. You realize that your fear isn't an external threat trying to destroy your peace.
It's a terrifying mirror showing you what you need to integrate.
Right. It's like avoiding a daunting task because you're scared of your own potential failure, only to realize the fear itself is the gatekeeper you must befriend.
Wow, yeah. The fear itself is the gatekeeper, and you have to befriend it to pass through the door.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Benjamin becomes the ultimate template for the spiritual warrior. You don't defeat the wolf. You acknowledge your lower nature to unify the inner house.
So you tame it, And the wolf stops being a threat to the sanctuary and becomes the very energy protecting it.
Exactly.
Okay, so if the wolf is our mastered lower nature, what happens when we finally let it inside the temple?
The source material suggests the energy radically shifts at this point. It goes from being defensive and guarding the perimeter to being incredibly expansive.
Which brings us to the Kabbalistic and alchemical mechanisms in the text.
This is where the synthesis of these traditions really takes off. In Kabbalah, the mystical tradition of Judaism, reality is mapped out in a series of divine emanation called Sephirah.
Right.
And the text links Benjamin directly to the Sephirah of Cheesed.
Which translates to loving kindness.
Yes, the expansive force of divine mercy, benevolence, and unconditional grace. It is the impulse to give, to bless, to shelter. It is universally considered the right hand of God.
Oh, just like his name, son of the right hand.
Exactly.
I mean, I see the linguistic connection, but I am genuinely confused by the emotional leap here.
It is quite a leap.
Yeah, how do we get from a predatory wolf devouring prey in the morning and guarding a door with a drawn sword to the Kabbalistic sphere of ultimate unconditional loving kindness? Those seem like polar opposites.
It is a massive paradox, but it makes complete sense when you look at the mechanics of alchemy. The text brings in the alchemical stage of fermentation to explain this transition.
Fermentation, like, the process of making wine.
Right. Think about how fermentation actually works. It is a process where life and transformation emerge strictly from decay.
Interesting.
You take fresh grapes, and you crush them violently. You destroy their original form. Then you seal them in darkness where they essentially begin to rot.
So that crushing is the trauma of Benjamin's history. It is the devouring in the morning.
Exactly. It's the breakdown of the ego.
Mm.
But in the dark, a chemical change happens. The sugars break down and transform into alcohol. The state of the matter is fundamentally altered.
The trauma doesn't just sit there rotting forever.
No, it ferments into wisdom. In the context of Cheesed, this breakdown becomes a baptism in grace. The soul is softened by the love that survives the crushing pressure of the trauma.
The soul is softened by love. Wow. It changes the entire nature of the wolf.
It really does.
You know, I was trying to visualize this fierce loving kindness, and the best analogy I could come up with is a highly trained, fiercely loyal guard dog, like a massive mastiff.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, because to a threat outside the house, that dog is absolutely terrifying. It represents pure, unadulterated aggression.
But you let that same dog inside the house with a toddler.
Exactly. And it is incredibly gentle. It will let the kid pull its ears and sleep on its paws. It is immense strength wrapped in gentleness.
A perfect analogy. The wolf, once the devourer of chaos, now represents protective power. It's a fierce kindness that guards what is sacred.
Benjamin proves that true loving kindness isn't weak. It isn't passive or naive.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, divine mercy often appears in shadowed places. It is a fierce sanctuary in the storm.
And that outward-facing protective energy, combined with the inward-facing quest for meaning, doesn't just apply to ancient tribal boundaries or lodge rooms.
No, the text actually maps it onto the cosmic wheel, associating Benjamin with astrology. Specifically, Sagittarius.
Oh, right. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign ruled by Jupiter.
Fire represents spirit in action. Mutable means it is adaptable and transformative, and Jupiter is the planet of expansion, higher wisdom, and philosophy.
And the symbol for Sagittarius is the archer, usually a centaur, half human, half animal.
Which parallels our tamed wolf perfectly. The animal lower nature is the foundation, providing the strength and the grounding, but the human upper half is aiming the arrow of insight toward the divine.
So the Sagittarian drive to seek truth aligns with Benjamin. His prey is no longer literal conquest or violence.
He is a spiritual hunter. He is using those predatory instincts, focus, tracking, endurance, to pursue meaning and divine justice.
He is turning raw experience into insight. And the source points out that processing this tamed predator energy is a universal human endeavor. We see these global wolf myths everywhere.
Right. Across various traditions, the mythic wolf performs very specific psychological functions, like nurturing with Romulus and Remus.
Or as a cosmic challenge.
Exactly. In Norse mythology, you have Fenrir, a giant wolf representing cosmic chaos. Fenrir is bound by the gods out of fear, but he eventually breaks free, and initiates the end of the world.
Which is exactly what Albert Pike warned about. If you bind your lower nature in the dark out of fear instead of acknowledging it, it eventually breaks loose and destroys you.
Exactly the mechanism. Contrast that with Native American traditions, where the wolf is often viewed as a spiritual pathfinder or a scout.
The wolf uses its keen predatory senses not to hunt humans, but to navigate the dark, liminal woods and guide the tribe safely.
The instincts are harnessed for the benefit of the collective.
It all connects so beautifully, and that brings us to the final concept in our source material, which I think is a brilliant way to synthesize all of this for you, the listener. The text calls this final stage the inner gate of Benjamin, or the gate of shadow and reconciliation.
Because after discussing the history, the Masonic swords, the alchemy, and the astrology, the application comes down to an internal choice.
Right.
This gate only opens when you personally dare to enter the realm of your own inner conflict.
I want to carry our architectural metaphor all the way through here. Imagine standing in the foyer of your own mind. You are looking at a heavy, locked door. Behind that door is the gate of shadow.
It's where your unresolved desire, your secret shame, your anger, and your unprocessed pain reside.
The Tyler sword is drawn. The wolf is pacing. And the key to unlocking this door is that you must enter the room and you cannot flee. The text poses direct, reflective questions, and I want to ask them to you right now. What part of yourself do you fear? Can you make peace with the wolf within?
Heavy questions, but they are the necessary mechanism for any real psychological or spiritual growth.
So what does this all mean? The biggest takeaway is that redemption doesn't come from denying our dark spots.
It doesn't come from pretending the crushing trauma didn't happen.
Right, or that our aggressive instincts don't exist. It comes from transforming them, facing them in the morning so we can divide the spoil of our newfound wisdom with others at night.
We have to be fierce in our discernment, but incredibly soft in our judgment.
That is the crux of the transformation.
And to build on that, I want to leave you with one final thread to pull on. Something to mull over long after this deep dive concludes.
Oh, what's that?
Well, the text makes a subtle but vital point to remind us that Benjamin is the youngest of the 12 tribes. And because he is the youngest, he is deemed the heir of synthesis.
Heir of synthesis.
Think about how a youngest child operates. His strength is not just his own. It is inherited from observing the struggles, the profound failures, and the triumphs of all the older brothers who paved the way before him.
Oh, wow.
Apply that dynamic to your own life. What if your ultimate breakthrough won't come from your first attempts? What if it won't come from your pure, untainted, idealized efforts?
Right, really?
What if instead your breakthrough comes from embracing your status as an heir to your own past mistakes? Just like Benjamin, carrying the historical baggage of his brothers, perhaps the final step of your own initiation is realizing that every single past failure, every moment of sorrow, every time you acted out of base instinct was simply you gathering the raw materials.
It was the necessary decay of the fermentation process.
Exactly. You needed all of that messy history to finally forge the key that opens your inner gate.
You aren't just your current self. You are the synthesis of every version of yourself that has survived up to this point. You are the map, and you are the wolves drawn in the margins. We want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. Until next time, remember to look closely at your own inner temple. Be courageous enough to face what's guarding the door, and may you find that strength wrapped in gentleness.